I'm going to now just introduce our next speaker, Erik Huey, who is SVP of Government Affairs of the Entertainment Software Association and a dear friend and supporter of Games for Change. Please welcome Erik.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Erik Huey. I'm the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for the Entertainment Software Association. We're thrilled to be here this morning, and we're thrilled to be sponsoring this year's Games for Change Festival, as we have in the past. And as we have last year, we're thrilled to be sponsoring the Games for Learning Summit. It's really exciting, the entire program that Susanna and the team have put together. Thank you, Susanna, and the whole Games for Change team, as well as Parsons New School. We're thrilled to be here. So I am with the video game industry. I'm with the Entertainment Software Association, and we are the trade association for the $23 billion domestic U.S. Video game industry. And our members are household names like Xbox and PlayStation, Nintendo, Take-Two, Ubisoft. You see the whole list of folks there. Epic Games, EA. These are the names that are in your living room that you're familiar with. And we are the lobbying arm. We're the communications arm. We're also the legal arm. We are the entity that filed the landmark free speech case, Brown v. EMA, and won in a 7-2 decision. We're also the entity that throws E3, which was just last week. I don't know, was anybody at E3 last week? Was anybody able to go coast to coast? Absolutely. And I saw Tracy Fullerton was here earlier. I know she was there. So we're busy. And we're busy because we represent an industry that's growing. This industry, which started just 40 years ago, I mean, 1967, you think about Ralph Baer and his workshop, as Chris alluded to, that wasn't too long ago. The entire industry is about 45 years old, and now we're larger than the entire music industry and all of box office Hollywood combined. We're the only growing portion of the entertainment industry, and we're growing in a lot of different directions, as you'll see. By the way, that number is 100 billion worldwide. And then when you think about where we're going to go with mobile and where we're going to go with virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, the sky is truly the limit. When you think about the evolution of this industry, it really isn't your father's Donkey Kong. You think about Pong and the Odyssey, the Magnavox Odyssey in 1972. Go forward to Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, all the way through the games that many of us grew up with, through some of the most cutting-edge graphics known in all of the entertainment field. Our industry is changing the interface between mankind and machines, and Chris alluded to that. These are some of the new consoles. We've got newer consoles coming out. The Sony PlayStation 5. You're going to hear later from Graham Devine and what they're doing in Magic Leap, which is literally a quantum leap forward in terms of our interaction with reality and with entertainment. Speaking of VR, this entire industry, our industry, is 100 billion worldwide. By 2020, just 4 years from now, they expect the VR, AR, mixed reality world to grow to 150 billion. And video games are going to be a portion of that, but video games are the leading portion of that. We're on the cutting edge. And one of the things that interests us as an industry is the cutting edge of learning. We're interested in this fact, and we've been interested in this fact for quite a long while, but it's fundamentally because the people in our industry believe in the transformative power of this technology. They believe that gaming and game mechanics can transform the world for good, and we're dedicated to that. There's also a practical reality, right? We need jobs, and we have jobs, and we need workers for this economy and the creative tech economy to come. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. But Chris mentioned this, you know, when he talked about the neurological science behind why games work, and building upon the pioneering work by Jim G and many of in the audience here, we're going to talk a little bit about this, because what we want you to take away from our presentation today is that this is possible. It's within reach. Games are trending all over the world, just not yet in the United States classroom. At E3, we had the Swedish education and workforce minister speak to a group of educators and congressional staffers. And they get it. They understand the need to reorganize the way that they teach and the way that they learn and the way that they assess, because there was a miscommunication, there was a mismatch between the products that they were putting into the world in terms of educated students and the needs of the 21st century world, and certainly the 21st century workforce. So why do games work? They're fun, right? I mean, they have to be fun. They have to be, they're engaging because they're fun. And they have this elaborate system of rewards that keep us chasing. The Japanese neuroscientists have a sort of a term for this. They say, if you think you catch the bus, then you'll try to run for it. But you have to think that you can do it. There has to be these levels of not only assessment, but reward that's based in. And that reward has to be attainable, but it also has to be frustrating, as was mentioned earlier in the work of Jim G. They're interactive, right? There's a familiar interface. We have to meet kids where they are. There's this whole notion that education has to be this didactic, Dickensian, one-dimensional experience where a teacher teaches in a non-interactive fashion, and the only interactivity is through the Socratic method or something like that. Games, it's a familiar interface. This is how children are learning all over America and all over the world outside of the classroom. So the question and the challenge then becomes for us here in this room as early adapters, and you know, I realize I'm preaching to the choir to a certain degree, what can we do to accelerate this curve? There's formative assessment throughout, right? You don't level up in a game until you exhibit mastery. You don't have to, as Jim G says, I don't have to, once you master Halo, once you make it through a level of Halo, I don't then have to give you a standardized test and have you fill in bubbles to prove to me whether or not you've mastered that level of Halo. You've done it. By mastering the subject, you then level up. And there's a positive feedback loop, and there's an instant feedback loop. If you get caught by the 4 ghosts in Pac-Man, you're going to try again. And you're going to try again until you make it to the dot, turn them blue, and eat them, and advance to the next level. You're going to keep at it, and that's persistence. And we're going to talk a lot about persistence and grit and time on task. Because what happens in video games that doesn't happen in algebra, not at least when I took algebra, is when you get frustrated in algebra, you snap your pencil and you throw it down and you say, this sucks, and you're done. And you may be done for a day or a week or the rest of your life. With games, you keep coming back. Greg Topo, who wrote the book, who's a USA Today reporter and wrote the book, The Game Believes in You, and I highly commend this. He said he had a motorcycle racing game, and he did a level on that 1,800 times before he got through the level. He's like, that's crazy, 1,800 times. Imagine if you could take a test 1,800 times. Imagine if you could go through a learning experience 1,800 times. So there's real-time feedback, not only for the video game player, but if you build in some big data analytics on the back end, for the teacher. The teacher can understand why 8th grade girls have problems in this precise area. They can understand why Johnny or Susie have problems with this concept in algebra at the precise time. They don't have to wait a month down the road to see if those kids understood what was taught a while back. And we talked about mastery and leveling up. So again, when you think about the learning benefits of the games, and Chris talked a little bit about this from a neurological standpoint, they teach you systems thinking. Complex systems thinking. You're constantly having to prioritize all sorts of stimuli, and they're coming at you quite quickly, and you're having to react to that, and you're engaging and you're interactive. They encourage creative collaboration, especially now when you're talking to people all over the world on your headset. You're collaborating with other game players in real time. Critical analysis, grit, which we talked about, and persistence, and why that's important in not only learning in 21st century skills and in prioritization. So these are naturally embedded in video games. And we've known this for a while. Oregon Trail debuted in 1974. And when you think about that game and you get to choose whether you're the banker or which role you play on the wagon trail, the choices you make literally determine whether you and your party live or die. That's a great way to learn what it was like to be a pioneer. It's much better than reading in a two-dimensional book. Sid Meier's Civilization. Sid is, one of the pioneers and one of the giants and icons of our industry, and I'm thrilled to hear from him later today to talk about his experience in 25 years of Civ. And the new game, Civ 6, comes out later this year on October 21st. To hear Sid Meier talk about this is a true gift, and I hope that you'll be around for that. But civilization teaches you how to build an empire. It teaches you how to bring that forward. And when you do that, when you have agency over history, when you're involved in history, all of a sudden it becomes much more interesting than learning about it in a didactic fashion. Dragonbox and Folded both came out of the University of Washington, Zoran Popovich and others, Dave Baker. Dragonbox, my 4 and 6-year-old daughters do Dragonbox. They're better, certainly better at algebra than I was at age 4 and 6. It's an incredible learning tool, and it's fun, and they keep coming back, and it teaches basic mathematical concepts without them realizing that they're learning. Because if you make this chocolate-covered broccoli, it's not going to work. It's going to get it sniffed out. I mean, there's the Bart Simpson episode, right, where he's trying to play the video game. He's going, wait a second, this is learning, and he throws it down. It's simply not going to work. Kids are going to sniff it out. Fold It, however, is fascinating. Fold It, is everybody familiar with Fold It? This is an incredible game. It teaches you how to fold genes and proteins. And they put out a folded challenge. And they said, we've been perplexed by one of the genes, one of the proteins that's a determinator for HIV infections. And they put out a challenge. And they said, let's see if we can map this, because through computer modeling, we've never been able to really do that. And within 3 weeks, the folded community at large, using crowdsourced learning, solved that problem. This is extraordinarily powerful. And you had lay people who couldn't spell gene splicing, all of a sudden folding proteins at levels beyond PhDs and computers. So those are existing games that teach you things, a variety of things, and they use the game mechanic. There are also games that teach you coding, because we realize that there are two sides to this coin, right? There is the side where there are video games that can teach you things, where the student is the consumer, or the teacher, or the classroom, the consumer. And then there are the games that teach you how to code, where we take the consumer and turn them into a creator. Everybody's aware of Minecraft. Microsoft paid $2 billion for Mojang a couple years ago because they understand the power of Minecraft and the 100 million people who use it on a weekly basis. It's fascinating. It's remarkable. We could talk about this, and we have been for quite some time. Minecraft is proving these very concepts in real time. And there are other things like Code Academy, like ThoughtStem, making coding fun, teaching children to learn without realizing that they're being taught. And what's fascinating now is there's never been a better time to be in video games. Because the old days, you had to design a video game, and you had to put it on a silver shiny disc, and you had to print it in the Far East, and you had to ship it on a boat, and then you had to get it to a GameStop. And then educational games had to compete against large titles for shelf space. Now, the internet is the shelf. There's infinite storage virtually. And you have publishers, and you have platforms that immediately will put your stuff out there. So if you've got great coding skills, if you've got a hot new game, you can put it out there. You can get crowdfunding for it. You can get crowdsource input on the game in real time. You know, Steam has a program where you can sort of greenlight, Steam Greenlight, where people will basically rate the game, and the highest rated games go on the Steam publishing platform. Desura, Xbox Live, EA Origin, Ouya. These are all happening. And folks like Microsoft and PlayStation are recruiting indie gamers. So if you're an indie gamer and you've got a great concept and you've got some good coding skills and some great graphics and a master of game mechanics, you can make the next Angry Birds or Flappy Birds or Minecraft. Here are just some examples of success stories of indie games. 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, Journey, an indie game on the Sony platform, won Game of the Year. It was virtually unheard of in the past. And Best New PC Game, Undertale, last year. These are made by indie studios. The numbers correlate to how many people work for that studio. So one person made Cave Story. One person made Stardew Valley, Undertale. These are recognized all over the world. And this space is only growing. So we talked about these five circles, which sort of look like the Olympic rings, but for intellectual property purposes, we did not overlap them because they're really good at IP enforcement, I can assure you. These 21st century skills that you see up here map exactly to the skills that you learn and acquire through video games. So I alluded to the fact that we need workers. We're in this for egalitarian reasons and because we believe in the technology, but there is a practical reality. Right now, Microsoft has 3,300 computer science jobs that are unfilled. EA has said that they're going to hire 4,000 engineers, software engineers, in the next 5 years, and they don't know where they're going to get them from. And by the year 2020, there are going to be 1.4 million jobs in the US for computer specialists. Our universities are only turning out enough students in that area of specialty to fill a third of those. So this is a crisis, and okay, we're this big industry, we're all over the world, you know that. What are we doing about it? One of the things we're doing about it is working with the Higher Education Video Game Alliance. We have Tracy Fullerton from USC, and we have Drew Davidson from Carnegie Mellon here, and they're on our executive board. They're the executive board of HEVGA. We're not too good at marketing, so it's HEVGA for lack of, but it's the Higher Education Video Game Alliance, and this is a consortium of, we'll go forward. This is a consortium of 171 US schools that teach video game design, that have video game design programs. And one of the things, our executive board is USC, Wisconsin, Carnegie Mellon, RIT, and USC Santa Cruz. And one of the things that we did together was map this ecosystem, because we knew that there was an ecosystem out there. And we mapped where colleges and universities, there are 406 of them, by the way, and these are colleges that just don't offer courses. They have programs, they have majors, they have concentrations, they have masters and PhDs. You can get in most cases, you can get a degree in video game design. And the great thing about these programs is they marry left brain and right brain. There are graphic designers, and there are also coders. So you have engineers sitting down in a collaborative fashion with graphic designers, artists here at Parson and SCAD and RISD and some of the best design schools sitting down with engineers from programs. And that's what happens in the real world of creative tech. That's what happens when you go to these studios. You don't have all the engineers on one floor and then you have all the graphic designers on another floor. They're working together as teams. There's a team of 200 to 300 working on a AAA game at any given time. And these games are being updated constantly, hence the growth. So what we did is we mapped the colleges and universities, and we've got copies of the map out front, and it's up online. But HEVGA also counted the number of video game studios. And what we found, even to our surprise, is there are 1,600 video game companies in over 2,000 locations throughout the US. And yeah, they're in Silicon Valley and they're in Hollywood, because we've got the dual DNA of the entertainment industry and the software tech industry. But they're not just in Austin, they're not just in Boston, they're in 84% of the congressional districts. So there's either a college or a video game company in 84% all over. The only state that doesn't have them are a couple of the square states in the middle, this has been updated. North Dakota now has a video game studio, because if you have broadband and you've got basic coding skills, you can start a video game company, you can start an app company, and you can put it out there for the world you can put it out on iOS, you can put it out on Google, and people can buy it instantly. So it's literally never been easier, and you have a lot of people to collaborate with. So much so that we did a correlation, and we said, okay, we know where the video game universities are, and we know where the video game companies are. Are they in the same place? We found out that there's a 91% correlation. So where there's a university program, it creates this small ecosystem of students, of professors, of former students and former professors, and they form their own companies. A lot of the student projects that maybe even some of you are working on here at Parsons are going to become the big hits of tomorrow. So there is a continuum, right? There's a continuum that if you teach children in a new and meaningful way, and you take that continuum through college, it keeps kids engaged in STEM and STEAM learning, and it makes algebra relevant in ways that never have. If you walk into an 8th grade classroom, and I do in this job a good bit, and you ask, who wants to be a video game designer? Every hand goes up, every boy, every girl. And it goes up because they love it, they know it. 99% of teenage boys play video games, but 96% of girls play video games on their smartphones, if nowhere else. So there's an ecosystem, it's real, it's growing. The jobs in our industry pay $98,000 a year on average, and We've got all sorts of other stats around this, but we can't keep up with it fast enough. I'll give you a preview. We're in the middle of our data scrub on this, and that number of 1,600, when we release our new data in the fall, is going to be over 2,000. This has become such a thing that the Princeton Review, the vaunted Princeton Review, who everybody pays so much attention to, now ranks the programs. Here are the top 25 undergraduate programs. Here are the top 25 graduate school programs. And there are more schools competing in this space every day. We talked about this. So we're a big industry, and I just want to bring it home by talking about what we've done and use that as a challenge for what we can do together in this room, because many of these ideas I'm about to discuss started here at Glass Lab. They started at the Games and Learning Summit at E3, which is now in its 7th year. We're now in our 2nd year collaborating with the Department of Education and Games for Change on this. But Glass Lab was an idea that came about in the White House when Connie Yao of MacArthur and I and David Washington were sitting there with the OSTP, the Office of Science Technology Policy, and they said, why can't the video game industry make educational games that are every bit as engaging as FIFA or Madden or Call of Duty? And there are a couple of reasons. We deconstructed maybe there's no money in it, maybe the distribution's hard, it's tough to get into the classroom, and we worked around and we got a $30 million grant, almost $31 million from Gates and MacArthur to explore this. Electronic Arts gave us an entire floor of their headquarters in Redwood Shores and said, create a studio. We hired 14 people. And we brought in Pearson and Zynga and a whole bunch of, and ETS, the folks who do testing, to analyze the data. The first game was SimCity EDU, and then we went on to do Argubot Academy. It's now it's got 15 different games, and there may be a big announcement later this afternoon about some intellectual property near and dear to everybody, I think, in this room. So this can work. It has worked. We partnered with our foundation to fund the Remission Game, which teaches kids to explore cancer and how cancer works and how their body is battling cancer, working with children who have leukemia and educating them about how it works in the body. And then we partnered with the Sesame Street Workshop, Joan Gans Cooney Center in the White House, and in the past the Smithsonian, now this year National Geographic on the National STEM Video Game Challenge. It's in its 5th year. 4,800 different teams from around the country sent in video games or the designs for video games. We had winners from all over the country come in, and this year they brought one of the winners to the science fair. The year before they brought one of the winners to the science fair, and the winner of the year before was a young, who participated in the White House Science Fair, and Rich Culotta will remember this. He was a kid from Texas. He was from a home where English was not his first language. His sister was there. She had to bring him. I'm not sure why the parents didn't come, but you may think of the socioeconomic reasons why. This kid was in a disadvantaged, Title I school. And here he was standing in the White House, 12 years old, beaming at this video game that he created and showing it to the President of the United States. That is a highly improbable result. But just because it's improbable doesn't mean it's impossible. We believe in the art of the possible as an industry. We know that you believe it as well, and we look forward to changing the educational future of this country with you. Thank you.